Welcome to episode 8, The Young Man and the Three. Our hosts today are Mr. Cam Johnson and Ms. Sue Bird. Jason Gallagher, what's up, man?
Not much, man. This is an awesome episode. We put out a teaser clip today. It's doing really well. If you like that clip, it's pretty much an hour and 15 minutes of that. Some really great discussions. So much so that on the production side, we're like, we don't feel like we're doing anything justice by just clipping out like 30 seconds. Like we feel like we have to push a full 3-5 minute clip on social, which is a big no-no on social, but that's how good the episode is.
Yeah, we taped this. We're taping this intro on Thursday, the 19th. We taped the interview on Tuesday, the 17th, but we're going to be trying a lot of different stuff with, Cam over the next couple of months. Obviously, we've done a lot with Sue already, and we'll continue to do that. I wanted to provide a little sort of context on these intros. We're going to be trying a few different things in the opening segments in addition to the interviews over the next couple months. And so I think we would like to sort of like bracket out the intro and the interviews as different parts of the show.
Yeah, I'm excited. And, I'm looking forward to getting a few takes off myself.
You got one right now?
I've thought about it. You all touch on it really nicely on the in the conversation about, the ratings discussion, the all-star discussion. So it's probably a little played out. I wouldn't be the first one to say it. I saw Kenny Beecham say it. I saw Tim McMahon say it.
Spit it out.
OKC not being on Christmas Day is travesty. I still fully believe that. But I'm actually going to zag a little bit. I didn't warn you with this. Okay, you ready?
I like it.
NBA is just a little too online. The league, I think that they're chasing a lot of gripes that the internet sort of has and manufactures, primarily led by, the first takes of the world. And I feel like they're constantly trying to appease those gripes. And that's how you wind up with a new all-star format every year. If I were them, I would take a page from the NFL's playbook and just not pay attention to the people griping online because the product is good. So I don't know. That's my take. It's all, I would just, like we all need to do sometimes, just shut the laptop, go outside. That's my recommendation.
I'm not even disagreeing with the take. Sue and I were talking about this the other day, maybe off the show, about how the NFL protects the shield. Don't you think the NBA is sort of symbiotic of the issue that afflicts a lot of society in that case, in that it is reactive to, gripes that are maybe a small number of people who are particularly loud have an opinion on this, and all of a sudden, whether it's policy changes or whatever it may be. So it's almost like you're not wrong as much as it is they are where everyone else is right now.
Correct. So I have no disagreements there, but I will say that I really think that the Thunder not playing on Christmas Day is just bad. I hadn't done this until a couple days ago, where it's like when you look at the NFL's Christmas Day schedule, and it's like they based that schedule off of who they thought was going to be really good that year. And obviously there's, you schedule these things out before the season, so stuff changes, but they're certainly not selecting this because of any sort of market size.
Yeah.
They're selecting this based off of the teams they think they're going to be good. And I highly recommend listening to a couple weeks ago, Bill Simmons and Chuck Klosterman sort of talked about the difference between the NFL and the NBA. And I thought it was a really interesting discussion. I just think put your best teams.
Well, it's also they didn't come out of nowhere. The ones in the West, and they were, and they still haven't. They have not had they haven't. I don't know. We're gonna get into this. We're gonna spoil alert. Yeah. Hopefully not a jinx. We're gonna have a bunch of the Thunder guys on the show coming up, so I think we can get into it with them. But maybe this will add a little chip to that shoulder. A couple things. One housekeeping note. We're not going to put an episode out Christmas week because it's Christmas week, and people have better things to do than listen to us or watch us or do whatever. Hopefully they're watching NBA, NFL, and hanging with their family. And then fantasy update. What do you have?
There are 4 people left in the league. It is myself, it is Tommy Alters, Pablo Torre, and it is Tim Robinson. So all of the professional athletes have been eliminated. I
think people are pissed in our league that it's us. And I'm like, my team isn't good. It's just luck. It's not like I rigged it with a stacked roster We went through it last week, but I think my luck has run out. My whole team is Lamar Jackson.
I just really laugh at who's at the top of the food chain in this league. Truly,
it's funny because Tim is probably the biggest Lions fan that we know. I mean, unless you have people in your life I don't know, but he's definitely the biggest Lions fan that I know. And he has no guys on the Lions on this insanely prolific offense. He has no guys on this team for whatever reason, and yet he's just rocking and rolling. It's like he's like 120 every week.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of another Lions fan other than his buddy Sam Richardson and maybe Tim the Toolman Taylor, and that's kind of it.
That's it. Well, we've talked enough. Enjoy this conversation with Cam Johnson and Sue Bird. It goes for about hour 20 or so. We hit a lot of different really great topics. I think you guys are really going to like it. And we will see you back the week after Christmas we got a bunch of good guests coming up. So I think you will enjoy those as well.
Peace.
Hey, Sue, let's talk about your high school basketball experience.
Okay, you're taking it back to the 90s?
Back to the 90s.
Let's do it.
Yeah, my high school basketball experience, when I really look back on it, it's like I could talk about, I actually went to 2 high schools, so I can talk about that. I can talk about playing. But I think what's really interesting about that timeline for me is I go into high school, there is no WNBA. And then come my junior year, the WNBA starts. And so there's just like a shift there in mentality, in like goals as a young kid. I'm choosing a college now based on knowing there's a professional league. But when I really think back on it, it was watching the 96 Olympic team. Like the names you would know is like Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops. I mean, I could go on. But Jen Azey also.
So your freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
W does not exist.
No.
What is your basketball like as freshman Sue? What is your basketball trajectory in your mind?
Well, that's kind of like where the joke lives. It was getting a college scholarship. Like I heard about that. There were times where my dad would be like, "Hey, the women's Final Four is on," but that was really the only thing that was on TV. You weren't catching a game on a Thursday night on a weekend. So where the joke lives is like nobody was like dreaming of playing overseas. Like I'm not a 14-year-old kid dreaming
playing in
Russia. That didn't
fair.
exist. So it was like get the college scholarship, I was already getting letters. I definitely want to ask you who your first one was. But I was already getting letters. And then it's like, oh, now I see this Olympic team. And I'm like, oh, could that be a goal? And that becomes this like, not even a goal, it just becomes a dream.
So when the W is formed,
Mm-hmm.
at what point in your brain? It's funny because we talk about this all the time with guys. But when you thought like being a pro was a possibility, much less a thing that's likely. At what point did that become a thing? Pre-UConn, pre-going there and dominating, where you're like, okay, this now exists. I'm in high school. This is a thing that
Does
I
it
could
become an immediate goal?
Yes.
Or is it more just like the fact that it's there is
Yeah.
like encouragement to just keep going on the trajectory?
I'm like, yeah, I'm thrilled it's an option. You still can't fully conceptualize what it means. But I did go to some of the early Liberty games. I'm from New York, from Long Island.
Where was the first arena?
The Garden.
Oh,
They were in the Garden from the jump.
It started at the Garden.
Guys,
and then,
these games,
how were
I can't
they?
even tell you. Like lit.
That's good.
These games were unreal.
Because
the energy, all of it, unreal. Teresa Weatherspoon is raising the roof, doing the whole thing. I guess that was Cynthia Cooper raising the roof. Teresa Weatherspoon's like so much passion. Rebecca Lobo's a big name on the Liberty. Like I can go down the list. I can name almost all the players in that first year. Shout out Sue Wicks. She's also from Long Island. I mean, these games were legit.
What was this? Was it the same schedule?
Yeah, but it was, God, now you're testing my history. I think there was only maybe like 8 teams at the start. Somebody do a fact check. I think there was only 8. Like playoffs was 1 game.
Yeah.
So it was very condensed, but I definitely went to those early games.
It is an insane journey. I was talking to Mikhail about this the other night because they were at the G League. At the G League, the next G League games where the Liberty played for a few years. So just having
White Plains,
having MSG
trash.
White Plains now.
That's a whole other
Barclays.
story,
Yeah. Well, what was your first letter?
Yeah, what was your first letter?
My first letter that I can remember opening and being geeked about was I think Yale, sophomore year of high school.
I love that.
Yep. I think that was my
Let's
first
go.
one.
That's
What was yours?
Mine was Duke.
Oh, that's a
Just
good
like
first one.
for those that don't know, it's like you get these like, they're just formalities.
Yeah, like questionnaires.
Yeah,
kind
it's
of.
basically a questionnaire.
Like
They just want your
we're
basic
having
information.
a camp coming up,
Oh,
or
yeah.
we're doing this, or
Always
you're
trying to
on
get
our
you in the
radar.
camps.
There's like a little letter, and then there's a questionnaire, GPA. You know,
Do you ever think about
Like
what your life would
basic
be like if you
information.
went to Yale?
yeah, all the time. Because Yale never actually turned out to be one of the schools that recruited me down the stretch, but the Ivies that were Columbia and Penn, and of those two, I kind of leaned towards Penn and made a serious consideration towards it. You know, like I applied through like to Wharton and everything, and I was good to go. And so there was a point in time where I was like, is this the route? And I was just talking about that with a friend the other day, and I was like, my life would have been completely different.
I'm trying to think who the last.
I didn't know the Ivy League route was like on the table for you.
It really was.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It was a serious consideration.
Who's the last Ivy?
NBA player?
Yeah, was it? It wasn't. It couldn't have been
Jeremy Lin. Oh, Devin Kennedy.
Boom.
Yeah,
He's from Princeton.
Yeah.
He's married to
yeah,
Katie Lou.
that's it. That's got to
must
be.
be the last one.
That has to be the last one.
Mhm.
It's amazing. It's amazing what you're because you would have fit so well there as a human being. you
Yeah,
would have
I
fit-
mean, yeah, it is crazy. Like it's literally like life decisions that you take your time and think about, and huge impacts, you know, like where you choose to go. And for that, at that time for me, you know, we're talking later high school. Like I was a late bloomer, really late bloomer, was never a highly ranked prospect by any means. And so, and I was a good student. So it's like there was tons of legitimacy towards taking the Ivy League route and having a really good education. And, you know, my neighbor where I grew up went to Wharton and was, you know, very successful in that. And it's just like, you see the path. So it's like, this is a good path to take. So, you know, it's definitely in that. It's like, am I gonna, you know, I feel like I'm a major high level basketball player. But nothing's guaranteed when you get to college. You know, I wasn't sitting there thinking like, okay, if I go to Pitt, I'm going to the league. That's my path. You know, you just go and scrap and hope for the best. So definitely crazy that it could result in so many different things there.
What do you think NIL in the last 2 years of college would have been like for you? Which is like I talk
From day one.
from the jump. It just would have been.
Yeah.
Would it have been Paige-esque?
I mean,
It's hard to say. Like
hard to
obviously,
say.
it's different journeys.
Yeah,
but
what's different is just I guess what's different is like literally society. I always feel so strange saying that word. It feels so big, but it's kind of just the truth. What's different is society. So the attention is different. All of it's different. But of our time, like pound for pound, yeah, me, my class, fast forward a couple of years, Diana comes in. Yeah, it would definitely been on that level.
I agree.
It was on that level
I
of that
agree.
time.
yeah,
Of what was like available to us in terms of popularity.
I remember as a kid watching those UConn teams.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, so.
We get that a lot. Like
Yeah.
to this day. It is cool because it is changing a little bit in that people will recognize me from the WNBA. But to this day, I probably get recognized the most because of my
College
UConn
accomplishments,
days.
yeah.
it is funny. We all went to the UConn game at Barclays last week,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and just seeing the
I'm in
crazy,
Steve
those
Bird's
crazy
world.
Yeah.
fans.
Like, yeah,
Cam security.
Yeah.
I'm security.
There's like only 5 pictures. That's it. Like we're not doing
Yeah,
all.
Excuse
of them.
me.
Yeah.
Can you give her some space?
But the way
please?
those fans traveled, that was like that my whole 4 years.
Yeah.
On
I
the
believe that.
road, everywhere.
I believe that.
When we were talking about like topics to get into, I was curious like both your guys' perspective on this with the NBA versus the W, and you know, there's a million reasons we'll get into about just the growth and popularity of the W overall, but it feels like, objectively speaking, how successful college has been the last few years has been a huge just boost, just like the ratings for Caitlin, for LSU, for UConn, for South Carolina, go on down the list. Do you think the NBA, by doing the stuff with Ignite and just basically like cutting off college at the knees with this shit, that has translated to why there's not as much buzz for the younger guys?
I do think so. I do. And I think the best point you made is that, like, look how much buzz the women have created through college basketball the last 4 or 5 years. Like amazing Final Fours, like great ratings, just characters that are people love, characters that people don't like. All that stuff is important. Like there got to be good people, there got to be villains. It's important. And this the hero for one person is a villain for another, and vice versa. But it created storylines and it created drama and it created things that you wanted to watch. the Overtime Elite and the Ignite just aren't generating the views in the same way. And I get the intention, but college basketball is a powerful machine in creating tomorrow superstars in a lot of ways. And, you know, I think everybody knows that college sports is changing, but the beauty of college sports is that I think that what people want to hang on to is that you have these athletes that you watch them transform from amateurs and kids in an aspect into bigger stars down the line, which is why, like, when you start to pay them more, it kind of jumps that. And I think that's where people kind of first connect with them. So obviously there's all that at play. But yeah, I think that college basketball traditionally has brought us some of our big stars, you know, minus a couple guys like LeBron or somebody. But yeah, it's kind of like chopping you down at the knees a little bit.
Yeah, you're taking the words out of my mouth. I would say college basketball and the NCAA tournament specifically is one of the greatest marketing machines that this country has in sports. Like, you can't, I mean, one player can hit one shot in one game and be on a Wheaties box. Like, it has that type of
and
power.
You just never will forget it.
Never. Like, literally never. So it has that type of power. Forget if that player ends up becoming a pro.
Yep.
Now they're taking all of that with them. And what I would say about the NBA, I don't know as much about like the nitty gritty of Overtime Elite, of the G League team. Like, I don't know like the business part of it and the why as much. But what I can say is, interestingly enough, in women's basketball, we always had the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. We always were able to create a lot of popularity for ourselves in those moments. But we had trouble bridging the gap from like that moment in time to then taking it with us to the WNBA. Now what we're seeing, especially this past year, but it was starting, but definitely this past year, is that gap has now been bridged. And we're seeing like the fruits of that.
Yeah.
And that's where, to your point about the NBA cutting itself a little bit at the knees, or maybe these leagues cutting college off a little bit. Now you guys have almost gone backwards and taking away that bridge. And the thing about college that's so special, back to the marketing of it all, it's just a machine in and of itself. But I always think of it this way. In college, people are fans of schools. Maybe they went there, maybe their parents went there. And it doesn't matter who is in that uniform. It actually doesn't even matter what sport, right? Like, even to this day, if all of a sudden I'm flipping through, you know, my app and I'm like, oh, UConn field hockey's in the final, like, boom, I'm putting that on. I'm number one fan. Right? So it doesn't matter. But in the pros, it becomes more about the individual player. They'll follow that player everywhere. I guess maybe at times more about the player than the team. But that can obviously swing both ways. But in college, that's the beauty of it. Like, those fans are there to stay and are fans of that school forever. And that's where you can really build, I hate to say brand, but it is a part of it.
So then the question becomes, like, I don't think there's a problem with college basketball's product right now, men's college basketball's product. I don't think we're saying like, oh, we're not. I mean, it's only maybe a couple guys a year that aren't going the college basketball route. And are we saying that throwing those guys back into the college basketball game makes that difference? Are we saying that there is a problem? I'm not sure exactly where to trace that, but I think it's magnified by women's basketball's success in that bridge. Mm-hmm. And but do you guys know where to pinpoint?
But isn't some of it also the longevity of it? And I'll give you two examples of it. Obviously, I mean, the most recent example being Caitlin both with LSU and with South Carolina, about playing them in the tournament and then playing them the next year. So you have this whole 13-month window of basically lists leading into, and then now you add Paige to the mix. Now you add some of these other elements to the mix to basically sort of like crescendo the hype that was built from the original national championship game with those two schools. But then the other thing is, and like we stuck with JJ about this, like part of why JJ became so hated and famous was because he was there for 4 years. So he was there to like take all those arrows and those battle scars. And if you have these, I mean, I'm not gonna name any names, but there's a lot of guys who it's like the second they lose in the first round of the tournament, it's like, not only are they gone, they're like off campus. There's no connection to the school in the same way. And so you don't have that.
I know who you're talking about.
But it's like that's been men's college basketball for a minute now.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Because you can, play 1 year and leave. And even with that being said, like we still had some amazing storylines in college basketball recently. And I mean, I went to the Final Four game between North Carolina and Duke when my little brother was playing, and it's like Duke versus North Carolina in Final Four. Coach K's final run, like if Carolina wins, it's his final game. Like those are like, that's so there's something else. There's something else that
I would say like I think I'm like a good demo for this because I'm a casual fan. I watch, I'm not diehard. And what I would say about college basketball for the men's side is maybe what you were touching on earlier about those few names not going. Are they the biggest names? Like I know Cooper Flagg. I know the hype around it. Yes, he went to USA Basketball. I knew it before. I knew him before. So he's this big name that is now in college that like I'm more likely to tune into and watch. Similar, like a la what we saw with like Zion.
Yeah.
He's obviously he's like an extreme example, but still. And that was exciting. Nobody wanted to miss Zion's games on TV. I've been trying to watch Cooper more and more on TV. So have enough guys that have had hype in high school not gone to college.
I mean, we can name through them, and are these like script flipping guys? Recently there's been
recent college.
Like I really don't know.
Recent
it's a real question.
People who have foregone college to take other routes.
Okay, I mean, a good example, we just did an ep a couple weeks ago with Dyson Daniels from the Hawks, who's from Australia.
But he's foreign.
He's foreign.
That's different.
He's from Australia, and he had a bunch of college options.
How about
Scoot
Jalen
Henderson
Green?
was like that.
Jalen
How about
Green.
Jalen
Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah.
Would Jalen Green have had more hype had he gone to college?
I believe so.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
that's the point.
But is that enough? Is that enough to say that the Ignite in the overtime elite is the issue behind this? That's what
But I do remember watching Lonzo Ball every time I could when he was in college.
Or is it just?
And then I tuned into a summer league because I needed to know.
Is it just the fact that there are alternatives? Just the fact that those alternatives exist, take the wind out of the sails a little bit, and then you couple that with the fact that that basketball is growing on such a global level, where a lot of tomorrow's superstars are coming from different countries, a la Wembanyama. And is that enough? Is that enough to be like, okay, like it's just not as big of a deal as it could be?
I feel like we're trending into the direction of, is something broken? That's really strong. With something broken in youth basketball where that level of talent, we'll use Zion because that's like to me the most recent like memory of like a big college star who then got picked number one, the whole thing. Do we not have that? Or is this just like a little bit of a drought? We're in a little bit of a drought.
Which can happen.
Yeah,
which
for
is
men's
allowed
basketball.
to happen.
We've had it in women's.
Picked up, and the women are not right now.
Yeah, no, I can think of like, pulling off the top of my head, I have to go look at draft classes. There was like, we had a year like 2013, I think it was like Skylar Diggins, Brittany Griner, Elena Deladon, 1, 2, 3, the 3 to see. And then, and I don't remember exact years. It was a couple years before we had another big name.
Right.
So it's like sometimes there are droughts. So maybe men's is just in a drought.
Is there anything, I have a couple of follow-ups. Is there anything with the college product first? And I have a question about the G League and the other things as well, but the college product first, like your guy, Danny Hurley and UConn, like the way that they play. I mean, they're an incredible team and they've had great pros. Klingon's going to be a great pro. Jordan Hawkins is, there's a bunch of guys from that team who are going to be good pros, but they don't have, obviously they don't have a Caitlin, but they don't have a person who is, they don't have Carmelo going to the national championship. You know what I mean? They don't have somebody who is, there's not a star-making vehicle on the teams that have been successful. And so, like, if Duke does go to the national championship there with Cooper, like Zion didn't go. You know, these guys who've been anointed in that spot have not.
He blew his shoe out, and that was enough.
What happened after he blew his shoe out?
He was out for a while.
I got a layup. Nobody remembers.
You're like, I was there.
When at Carolina, did you guys go to Sweet 16? What was the?
We got upset by Auburn. They hit a bunch of threes. It makes me sick to this day. You can't relate, but
but I mean, another one. It also is like, I mean, I think the sort of the most recent example of like the stars to pros thing has got to be the Nova guys. Like that's the one where like those guys by the.
But we're yeah, but like even as much as they were excellent players in their own right, it wasn't like they were like, you know, JB and Kel and Josh and them. Yeah, but they were just all really, really, really good. You
There
watch
wasn't
it.
like a one.
Yeah, it wasn't
star.
like a one-man show by any
Right.
means.
Yeah, Melo's a good example.
Melo's a
Here-
good example.
The other question, and this is like all you can do is give your perspective on this, and
Yeah.
you're not making broad judgments about these programs or anything like that. But I'm just like, you wouldn't be the first person to say this. None of us would be the first person to say this. What those things do, and we talked about this with Dyson a couple weeks ago in terms of preparation. Obviously, you're playing basketball all the time, you're working out all the time, but you are like, it's a lonely life.
Yeah.
It's a weird life. You don't have, when you think about a lot of the best, the sort of more unheralded guys in college, like the Jaws and the Dames and the guys who like played at these small schools and just fucking balled out for like 3 years and learned to lose. They by the time they got to the pros, they were ready. You don't really have that experience. You're kind of just like an apprentice for a year in this random apartment in Vegas, and then you go to the league. And so,
If you play for the
if you go play for
overtime
these places,
elite.
you just
okay.
aren't like, you don't have the, I got upset and now I'm coming back for revenge. You don't have a Steph Curry moment where you like,
Yeah, it's like
Is it fair that all you have
It's-
is money? I'm not, that's like a real question. Is that the reason? Like that's the one reason, the sole reason?
the reason why you would choose to go that route.
Yeah.
yeah,
Money, and you don't feel like going to school and you
School,
feel
yeah.
better in control of your narrative.
yeah,
Whereas, like, as a professional basketball player, you are in much greater control over the situations and circumstances you're put in to an extent
Mhm.
as compared to college, where, and this is what it all kind of harkens back to, addressing the point that you made right before that was like, okay, Hurley does not have a superstar like that at UConn, but he does not care about that. I can guarantee you, like, the media and who they choose to blow up and give attention to, and that hype train operates in a completely, and you know this, completely different bubble than your day-to-day as a college basketball player, as an NBA player. Like, we're not, and I'm not at Carolina, like, we're not like, who's going to be the next star? We're not
Yeah.
in the league, like, who's going to be the next star? Well, our job is to win games. Our job is just to win games and accomplish that by whatever means necessary, which I'm sure we will address things
Yes.
further along this conversation
Yes.
that play to that. But yeah, it's just that it's not on your mind in college. And so if you're, if you think that G League Ignite or that overtime elite is a more viable, I guess the Thompson twins then are another example
that's a
of that.
success.
That's
That's a
overtime elite.
successful.
They would
example,
have, seeing them in college, I think, would have been a lot different for their hype, given the types of athletes they are.
yeah.
Mhm.
And they would have been, captured a lot of attention that way, which they didn't get, which you see them doing these things in the league that are like, they're physically very, very gifted.
Yeah.
And it's like, you still don't know that much about them. But they were in control of kind of their own narrative throughout that process, going to OTE. And I guess in a way, it's like introduced to the professional life a little early and, maybe given more time to acclimate to it.
Do you guys think the ratings conversation matters for NBA?
I mean, I was like, I'm in a world right now where, that shit matters for the WNBA.
Well, because
It
when's it
paints
up?
pictures.
When's the deal's up next year for TV?
It's already signed.
Oh, it's already. Oh, yeah. Did they sign it this year? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a group. It's a
Yeah.
pack. It's
Do you think it matters for the? I mean, the NBAs are signed now too. So do you think it like?
I actually,
Like, do you
someone
think it
just told
matters
me-
now that it's signed?
Well, I'm just kind of like, this is it just feels like there's a lot of noise about this thing that does not seem to
I don't
like
think it
has
matters.
any impact on actual reality of your life.
I
Playing
think it's
in the league.
ebbs and flows of viewership. I think you can try to find indicators to try to turn it around. I do think there's an ebb and a flow. And I think live sports, given where all of the way we consume media is going, live sports is the one thing that you cannot replace.
Yeah.
You cannot replace it. And the other thing I would add is someone told me recently, and we need another fact check, that attendance in the NBA is actually doing really well.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I don't know that to be 100% factual, but that I thought you throw that in the ring, it's like, well, there's still the revenue is all still on the up and up. But yeah, the networks are going to pay because live sports can't be replaced.
I agree. And I would be curious to hear more about all of the, we get numbers thrown at us. Ratings are down 50% and this is down 28% and this is fallen when this sport is gone. I would like to, there's factors that go into it. There are a lot of factors that go into it. The bigger issue then becomes the general consensus of how fans feel about the sport, which is a different issue. right? And if that's in a good place, then the ratings is kind of one thing, but you want the fans to have pride and confidence in where the league is heading.
Can I throw two factors out at you, which I don't actually know whether you ever have to deal with watching on the road? And I'm curious, just as a fan watching this stuff. The first thing is, and neither of these are novel statements at all. The first thing is, it's really hard to watch all the games because you have to have 19 different apps. Even if you have League Pass, there's blackouts, there's all kinds of shit. There's like, you have to have 7 different apps. Even if you have the app, you still have to get like a bonus to get it whenever it is. And there's not a great way to basically like watch all the games. And the second thing, which is becoming a big story, I feel like now, and probably will, be fixed by next year, is the league probably hasn't done a good job of taking teams like OKC that have all of these young stars but play in these small markets and highlighting them. I mean, they're not playing on Christmas. I think they have 4 national TV games, something like that this year. And it's like, this is probably the second best team in the NBA.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing in late May, early June, unless something goes like horribly wrong. And so there is a sense of like, all right, Knicks, Lakers, Knicks, Lakers, Knicks, Lakers. Like if you're not one of those things, and you had it a little bit in Phoenix where it's like, you guys have a team, which is like, this is a championship contending team. And it took you actually getting to the finals, I think, for people to understand that.
When it comes to the streaming services first and how hard it is to access games, I completely agree with that. As some in times, say when you're injured or something and you might miss a 1-game road trip, you know how hard it is to get the game at home? Like I'm trying to watch my team. It's hard.
The TV plays for.
I guess not. Like I mean, I don't need it besides that one time, but it feels like it could be really difficult to access the
NBA
game.
Doesn't give all players free league pass.
It's blacked out if you're at home.
No, but you get then you should be able to access. Okay.
I guess I would need to get
Yeah,
you need to get Gotham.
Then I don't have
Gotham or but they changed the app, and then it's like you get the app, and then the game is locked.
I'm going to throw something into this conversation though before we continue. That's not the viewership that people are talking about when they talk about numbers. They're not talking about the local games.
But I think it all ties in. I think it all ties in because it's all all people watching consistently.
Okay.
And I feel like watching consistently,
the media deals, the rights deals.
Watching consistently gives you a lot more backstory to these teams, gives you a lot more investment to these players, as opposed to you tuning into a random, what it would be a seemingly random. Okay, the court is gold, but it's Bucks versus Thunder, and they're telling you that the winner gets $500,000. Like it's less personal. So when these games are easily accessed, and you're out of fans can be, like you said, fans in the NBA are fans of mostly players a lot of the time, not necessarily teams as much as maybe some other sports are. So you're able to track it better when it's probably easier to consume, and so I would give validity to that point to some extent.
What about the small market?
I am completely in support of empowering small markets better. I get it on one hand, but you shouldn't have to be the Thunder and be like, if only our team was in LA, or you shouldn't have to be a quote unquote star player and be like, I got to work my way to the New York market.
Hasn't social media helped solve some of that in terms of players?
Specifically
the player movement.
But no, I don't think so.
They can still kill it in the small markets, where I know for a long time it felt like they had to get to one of the bigger cities.
Do you think so?
Well, I think it's gone backwards in a way, because I think if you look specifically at OKC, for example, when KD was there, KD, Russ, and Harden were there. I mean, they made the finals, but that was a team that got a ton of attention. I mean, those guys were all international stars while they were there. There's a bunch of LeBron is an anomaly. I mean, he's an exception, but Cleveland's not a big market. There's been a bunch of examples in the last 15, 20 years of it happening. I just think that it's not like it's one person's fault, but I think that there's been a level of flat-footedness. I mean, it's sort of what we do on the show a little bit, is almost actively don't have guys from LA and New York.
Yeah.
It's like we do stuff, if we're gonna do stuff with Paolo's probably a top 7 or 8 player in the NBA when he's healthy.
And
maybe
he's a number 1 pick.
Yeah, and maybe he'll do and he's somebody that you know, and I
Yeah, it
think he
just
would
doesn't
agree
get
with
talked
this.
about as
He
much.
scores 50 and it's just like, okay.
Yeah. Which is like, it just happens. It's like if we go to dinner with Paolo in New York, I mean, this happened with Tyrese. Tyrese is a perfect example of this. And like, he noticed it.
Mhm.
Nobody stopped Tyrese in New York until he played the Knicks.
Does
'Cause
anyone
we go to
stop
dinner-
anyone in New York?
He's just saying until he
No, I'm
played,
joking. I'm
until
like,
he's
New York's
until he
not the right-
thrived versus
versus a team that was one of those teams. It was
Okay.
like he's putting up Olympic, all NBA numbers in SAC and Indy, and they just aren't doing it. What I think is interesting
Is that a media hype thing, or is that like something that you'll never be able to change? Like, is that something that media hype can influence?
Well, yeah. Isn't this like what they always talk about with the Cowboys and like why ESPN covers the Cowboys so much? And they're like, shrug.
They cover
People
the
watch
Cowboys
it.
no matter what they do.
I think
Exactly.
I think it's that though.
Yeah, it's like,
I think it's that.
yeah.
I think it's
It's
you
interesting
blame the
hearing you guys
partners.
talk about some of these issues because these are things that like we've encountered
Yeah,
forever.
Yeah.
and we've been like complaining about forever.
But that's what I wanted to ask you with this, both the growth, but then also
Mm-hmm.
the current setup with the W, because now by far the biggest market is Indianapolis. It's going to be from like a number
Mhm.
standpoint. It seems like Dallas will be in that conversation. Not that Dallas is like a tiny, market to begin with, but the second page gets there. It's like going to be a big deal. New York's clearly big. Vegas is clear. Like the
Yeah.
best teams are always going to be big,
Mhm.
but it does feel like it has flipped a little bit where now it's like, it is like the stars, no matter where they go,
It doesn't matter,
the spotlight just follows them. And then it becomes, it's this LA is not a big basketball destination in the W right now.
No.
Compared to a place like Indiana or
I mean, you
Dallas.
can argue that because of the youth that they have right now, that
Yeah.
it could become that. But no, the last couple of years, it hasn't
Yeah.
been that. Even though LA is LA.
We've talked about this so much, sort of like off the show and everything like that. But just like, if you do the macro state of the W right now, by any metric, any number, it's in a
Killing
great
it.
place,
Mhm.
killing it. Da-da-da. But it does feel like it's a little bit of like whack-a-mole sometimes. And this last week was a good example of this. Of
More
like,
money, more problems.
yes, you have
everything.
this great thing happen, and then it's just like some annoying bullshit pops up, and it's like, can we just have like 1 week where everything is good
Yeah.
and there's no drama? You do this with Megan every week on A Touch More, and you obviously will just sort of talk about it kind of publicly a ton. But how are you balancing that?
I think when you zoom out, the WNBA is an amazing place. I think there are countless reasons as to why that's happening. If we talk specifically like NBA, I don't want to make it NBA versus WNBA. We actually, Megan and I go out of our way not to make it. It's not like, oh, WNBA viewership is doing this. Look at the NBAs. I try not, like we really go out of our way not to do that. I don't think that's the way to paint a picture, to put somebody else down. It's just not the way it goes. But at the same time, it is really interesting for me to hear you say something about viewership and like, oh yeah, we don't know what other games were being played that day, because we were always given the bad time slots and then judged on that viewership. So it's just, for me, honestly, it's more just like interesting. But yeah, state of the WNBA, back to that. In a great spot. What I would say in that NBA comparison is the NBA is so big. It's like, how much growth can there actually be in a sense? Whereas the WNBA had so much growth to do. And so now we're finally seeing it. And in my experience, we finally just have like a cultural cachet attached to us. There is stakes to our games now. People are tuning in for different reasons outside of just the basketball. It is for the basketball, but maybe it is because of a rivalry. Maybe it is because, I don't know, this city versus that city. It's being talked about in a different way that I've never seen. And this is actually my real example. When I saw Bill Simmons, shout out Bill Simmons, when I saw Bill Simmons on his own show talking about how the WNBA should have gotten a better deal in their viewership, that actually meant something for me, because Bill famously has said some not so great things about the WNBA in the past, specifically about me and like my looks. You can give it a Google. But it was interesting. So here was a guy who 15 years ago had one opinion, but now is talking about it in a totally different light. And I actually think that means something in terms of what I was saying, that cultural cachet. What up, Bill?
I would say this. I'm on a, Sue knows this, but I'm on a text thread with Bill and our friend Anthony and Charlemagne and Van Lathan. And Bill is constantly talking about the WNBA.
Yeah,
like he is following it. He's talks about basketball every week. But it's just straight up a thing in the last year and a half that has completely
Yeah.
culturally taken over.
When he talks about it, what is he talking about in general?
He's talking about the games. Like it's like there's no it's not narrative shit. It's not like, oh, this controversy, and I think that's the thing that we've talked about a lot in regards to some of the Caitlyn stuff. Is Caitlyn is just like locked in. She just wants to kill on the court, and there's all this shit going on around her that this last week was a perfect example of this, where she gives like a textbook, really good interview, and then people start fighting on either sides,
which proves it's like, what is this? It's not about her. It's not about.
People have
it's
their own
just
agendas.
and that's when you have to. I don't know. I can't imagine being in her shoes.
You got to weed out a lot.
Yeah.
You have to information sort and compartmentalize, and it's just exciting. It's exciting, and like you said, like the NBA, where we stand currently, we have benefited off of the work of previous generations. We have the NBA growth over the last 50 some odd years is fantastic, and it has put us in a position that we are now. Like the WNBA is on a great track. It's just younger. It's younger, and it takes time, and it takes people to sacrifice for the next generation. This generation is going to sacrifice for the next, and it's going to continue to grow.
Oh yeah. You could probably find audio of this, if not audio print. Like, I am on record probably the last like 5 or so years, and I really meant it of my career. I really meant it when I said this in the last 5 or so years of my career. I wanted to be sitting in this seat right now, jokingly being the disgruntled veteran that you might.
I love seeing them too, because you see them all over the podcast too.
Yeah, when you see it. But even like, so I've turned on TNT, and Charles Barkley's like, I didn't make that money, or whoever it is. It doesn't matter who you're talking about. I joked. I was like, I hope I'm that player. I hope I'm that retired player that's like, they're making $1 million, because that means it worked. That means it's working. That means, to your point, all the people before me, people in my generation, like, our fingerprints are all over it. Like, our mark is left, but also like it worked.
Yeah.
Everything we did worked. And now they can take me out to dinner. They can take me out. Yeah, I want to be bitter. I want to be disgruntled and bitter.
It's a win, though. Being bitter for you is much better than the alternative.
Yes. And I'm so proud, so happy for all the players who are cashing in now. It's amazing to see. And also the ecosystem of women's sports is growing, and that gives me a job.
Yeah. Yep.
I get to talk about it.
Yeah.
I get to be a part of it in this other way that it's growing in those ways too. So the basketball has to be growing for that to grow. So I'm still making a little off it, It might not be as a player, which it would be amazing to be playing right now. Like, don't get it twisted. I would love to be playing right now.
Don't egg her on.
Oh,
Give it 2 weeks.
It's like I can do shooting contests.
Say the word. Just say the word.
I can maybe a shooting contest in me, and that's about it.
Just say the word. I'm ready.
Limping around. Nobody wants to see that. I'm telling you right now, nobody wants to see that right now.
Oh man.
What do you think? What's your best advice in terms of just you were mentioning that, I forget the term you used, but the information like filtering, but just like blocking stuff out
from a player's perspective?
Yeah, all the noise.
You have to be very level-headed in terms of how you approach things, and you have to be very committed to your own approach, whatever that may be for yourself. So like you have what you live by, you have your goals in mind, you have all that, and you stay on that path, and you don't, how do I say this? Like, you don't just go out trying to get people on your side. You don't just go out trying to, you know what I mean, fit in with this group, earn the respect, earn the cheers of just stay on what you're doing. People are going to say what they say. The media is going to say what they say. And it kind of comes down to how you filter information, but also the people around you immediately and how they support you.
Definitely.
Do you, in the situation right now, obviously, it's like you've had an amazing season. I think all-star season. Who knows what's going to happen with the team?
Thank you,
Who knows what's going to happen with the team? But like, there's just a lot of noise. Dennis just got traded.
Yeah.
There's a lot of noise. People have all kinds of, Cam's going to be here. Cam's going to be here. There's nothing you can do about that. But there is a sense, and I don't know. I'm actually curious if you ever had to deal with this.
Yeah, I already have a story.
Yeah, but people just being like putting you in other cities, and you're like, yo, I got him. I'm the one who has to move.
Yeah. So we talked about this the other day, and it's just like, for basketball fans, the trade deadline and trading in general is fun, right? It's fun. It's like, oh, where's my play? Are we going to get this player? Are we going to get that player? Where's this player going to go? It's like reality television in real time. From the player's perspective, you realize that like, oh man, like lives are at stake. Dennis, you know, he has his own life.
Mhm.
He has his own life, and he has to pack that up with him and take it from coast to coast. And it, you know, he's from Germany. It takes him a really, really far way away from home, as opposed to Brooklyn, which was a little closer. So there's a lot of elements at play anytime anybody gets moved. There's a lot that I could say on this topic. There's a ton. And being in the middle of that, I don't know how much I'd say on it right now. But if I could just speak generally and taking myself out of the situation, the thing that pushes a lot of success in team sports, from my limited experience, is buy-in and pride in what you're doing. And so the best way to achieve success on a team level is when that buy-in and that pride is at all-time highs, when it's peaking, because that's when the camaraderie, that's when everything starts to flow, the synergy, and you're able to play your best ball as a team. There's a lot that gets in the way of it on a professional level. And one of those things can be uncertainty of your future, whether it's yourself getting traded, whether it's your teammates getting traded, anything like that. And just those little shreds of doubt can be very difficult for teams to overcome because, like you know, the margin for error is always really small. Always really small. It's a little bit of lack of communication, a little bit of a lack of trust, and just a tiny bit of disinterested, you know, feelings from any one player out of 5, and how good players are at the professional level, you're going to get exposed. So a lot of elements at play anytime this comes up. And if you're on a team where, you know, trade speculation is high, you maybe could potentially assume that comes with it. Now, it's not to make excuses about anything, but it's human nature. It's reality.
Yeah. I misunderstood that we were talking about getting traded. I do not have a story.
Sue's no one has ever wanted to trade
It's just like a
Sue.
totally different thing anyways. But so I thought we were talking about being on a team. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it safe to say that now that the deadline's approaching and Dennis just got traded, you guys are the Brooklyn Nets are even more into a rebuild, essentially?
Yeah.
So I thought we
It's
were
fair to
going
say
in the
that.
rebuild route of
Yeah.
like the difficulties of that.
For
I
sure.
think we were.
Buying
Yeah, they
into
are. I
that.
mean, they're sort of.
I think they're one and the
They're two
same.
sides of the same
That's the
because the
story,
reality is like I'll say, it's like objectively speaking, like they've been great. They have a great coach. Everyone has like played their ass off, but there's a vested interest probably for this team to have a worse record this year so
Right.
they can get a guy like Hooper.
And to further clarify, and by we've been great, I think it means our team energy.
Yeah,
like
you guys
maybe
are
our
fun to watch.
record
Yeah.
could be better, but our team energy and direction was definitely headed in a positive manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Watching outside looking in, I would totally agree with that. So the WNBA is just the salary structure is just not set up for massive trades to happen mid-season.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
It's a hard cap. It's you have to fit pieces of a puzzle into it, and it's very difficult to make the money match mid-season. That could change though. Our CBA's up, it's being negotiated, yada yada. That could change with the influx with the media money. So I don't know what that would be like. I've really never had to deal with it, to be honest. But not because of any other reason, then it's just not set up that way. But the rebuild stuff, I've been a part of a rebuild, and one of the harder parts of that is you're trying, and I think you've already really said it, you're trying to just have a team that is bought in to what this is, which is like the building of the culture, right? The building of what you think you're going to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
That can be hard, but as long as you have that and I feel like when you have that, you're entertaining. The fans can get behind you, but there's always going to come a point where you have to like take the L's literally. And when they start to stack up, it can feel really weird. And it can in the locker room, you can start to feel people be like, well, like I'm getting judged on this.
Yes.
And you're putting the team first. And that's where things can get real murky in a rebuild year.
And to further, add my take onto that is one thing that we're all conscientious of is that our product on the like a rebuild, for example, that's maybe the team retooling in some way. It could be a death sentence to somebody's career.
Yeah.
So there's maybe a 9th, 10th man on a rebuilding team that never sees another minute in the NBA. It happens all the time. Like those are guys that get cut out of the league. So from a player's perspective, we never want to lay down and lose. It is like, on one hand, losing always sucks. We hate it. We much rather win. Like it sucks. But on the other hand, it's your livelihood on the job on the line.
Yeah.
Like your job is on the line. So it is not in any player's best interest to just sit there and lose. So it is, like you said, it's hard to come to terms with if you feel like, you're in a situation where winning is not the priority or whatever it may be. It's just like we want to compete at a high level, and it can bother you deeply when you're not.
I'm actually curious about, I don't know if I've ever asked you about this. This has nothing to do with you guys this year or the Nets overall. Really more like the process and more like as a player perspective, because it gets like litigated over and over again. But and I feel like this has become a thing with fans for better or for worse. JJ and I talked about it before because he got there right when it was sort of ending. But there's like some teams, it's like they lose 4 games in a row and people are like, we want to lose for 3 years straight. Like we just want to like, not even just like, okay, we're going to rebuild for a year. Like we want to like fully bottom out. But what's really interesting about, what you're saying is the culture is built by having those 8th and 9th and 10th guys. It's not just the stars. And that comes from, take a guy like Josh is a great example of this. Josh is a superstar in New York because of how he plays. Because Josh is not going to be happy on a losing team. Like he needs to be in a
he's been on teams that weren't the best, and you can tell like he didn't. Yeah,
he's like needs to be in a team where
his value is in the winning. Because he makes winning plays. Not, I hate to say it like this, but he's not just going to go out there and drop 30.
Empty. Yeah, he's not empty. He's not empty. Like
he makes winning plays.
He does a lot of winning,
and that needs to be
things.
Valued on a winning team, or that will be valued on a winning team.
Do you think that? I mean, Embiid would joke about it a little bit, but do you think that there's any understanding of it from the player perspective, or is it really just more like we just got to get guys in here that know how to win? And you can do both at the same time, but just having a sense of like culture versus long-term prognosis when you're actually in it.
I'm not sure I'm getting what you're saying.
So is there, do you think that if you are like in the middle of the process, knowing what you know now,
like actually in the middle of
the process, and not in the middle of a 1-year rebuild,
so it can go up.
We're in the middle of a thing where we don't want to be good until 2028.
Yeah,
there's as much as you may hate it, there's an understanding of it, or there's like this is stupid because who knows if you're even going to hit your picks.
I'm on. I think most players would say the latter because, it just seems so circumstantial, so like almost whimsical.
Hard to sign up for that.
To sign up for that.
By the way, that's like, if we use your example, that's like 3-4 seasons. And depending on a player's age, you're giving away your like best winning years.
Yeah.
Like age plays a role in that. Like I'm not trying to give, I don't know, pick any, like my 25th year to, 28-9. No way.
Yeah.
Like why would I want to give that?
I mean, I would.
But you don't like you. I guess the answer lies in the middle. You want to put your team in the best position to win, but you want to do it immediately. Like you want, as a player, you want to compete now. I don't want to say we're going to be pretty good in about 2-3 years.
You're the GM. How are you selling that?
Yeah.
I don't know. What I was going to say is like a perfect example of this to me is Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Who Philly trades to start the process. They're literally like, this is a guy,
All-star.
whatever, goes to New Orleans, very undervalued, great career. And then he just becomes the champion. He's the guy that goes to Milwaukee, they win a championship. They put him on Team USA.
I think it worked out for him.
They send him to Boston, he wins. So you're just being like, don't you think you would want to have a guy like Drew Holiday? Like it just, to me, this stuff is habitual like any other job. And there's no logic in being like, we're going to trade the Drews, we're going to trade the Joshes, we're going to trade the people who
make winning
win
because that will make another team.
Yes,
go.
because there's no guarantee you'll get that back.
Yeah,
there's not that many.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, there's rare.
I agree. I feel that way, and I feel like, like it doesn't. That those are quality pieces. Like you hit the nail on the head with Drew. Like he goes from being undervalued. He was a one-time All-Star going into championship type teams, but he becomes undervalued until he becomes the ultimate utility player. That's like, you got this guy on your team.
The one you can't win without.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it's something that it's hard to understand. Like, it's hard to understand. I guess timelines play a big role in it. Timelines, and it's hard. It's hard to understand.
I had a team building W question for you. Are there dynamics specifically in the W that you think are underrated in terms of this?
Just building a championship team?
Yeah.
Underrated?
Yeah, that people are, I mean, you got to have
simple.
talent. You know, you got to have the best players, but like,
there haven't been, I'll say this is pretty, there haven't been that many teams that have won a championship that haven't had like the MVP caliber player.
So, star player.
Yeah. But like, you know how like there's all-star teams, but then there's actually like tiers.
Yeah.
Like if we're being honest, within the all-star team, I'm talking like the tippy top, the 0.0001.
you need Asia, you need Stewie, you need
I really off the top can't think of a team that didn't have that player. So that's like first and foremost. Very like, I really can't think of it. I mean, honestly, Nafisa coming on the way she did in this last season is kind of a close. But she ended up in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, then she's making the push for that top
so it's
tier.
like she was an MVP level player by the end.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult. So that's the main ingredient. I think that's for most sports. And then I think the position specifically that is becoming more and more valuable, and we didn't really have it in this way. We didn't call it 3-and-D. We really didn't up until a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That to me is becoming. It's hard to say that the next most important. But like you're looking at the teams that have won, they all have had that. They've all had that. You're
preaching to the choir.
Yeah, they've all had
you're
that.
Looking at
employment.
Yeah. And by the way, that's the player that could end up leaving your team. Maybe they get a better offer. You know, that's the
Maybe
player
they're undervalued.
Yeah, exactly. They want a bigger role, whatever it is. That's like the trickier piece to keeping championship teams together, or it can be the trickier piece.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, how big of a factor is continuity?
So in the WNBA, it's arguably, it's up there because our season is really short.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see a lot more movement.
Yeah.
And actually let's use last year's finals. Let's use the 2023 finals as just like an example. You had two essentially super teams, whatever. You had Vegas, been together for a couple of years, more than a couple of years, had success, been together. So when they come back together for training camp, it's like they just pick up where they left off. Whereas the New York Liberty was a brand new team, equally as talented. You can argue like one was more talented than the other. It's just your preference. They needed time to gel. And I don't know if they actually got there. They got there enough to get to the finals, of course. But did they actually become like that team, the continuity piece of it all, where it's like there's chemistry, there's flow. And now I bet what you see with them is if they keep their core together for a couple of years, that continuity will give them an advantage.
Well, it already has paid
as
off
they start
then.
to, age, as they start to maybe change some pieces here and there. That piece plays a huge role in our league because we have such short training camp time and the season's really short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you, in retrospect now, a couple of years out, what did you learn from CP?
I learned a lot from him. I think the biggest is his approach. I think his mental approach. So he pays attention to every little detail on the court and off the court. So off the court, his lifting protocol, his treatment protocol, his stretching protocol, his nutrition is all like very, very regimented and, strict to an extent where he is on top of every detail. And it spills over onto the court where he analyzes the hell out of every play. And he's able to process at that high level. Some people, when they get into an overanalyzation, it freezes them, slows them down. He's very capable of it, so he can just puppet the game. So for me, at first, it's like I'm playing hard, I'm running fast, and he's like, you have to learn when to use your pace. You have to learn when to find these windows here, there, everywhere. So he's yelling at me during these games. He's not like babying, like, it's okay. He'll yell at you, like, you have to do this and not this. You got to be in this window, like, and he backs that up. Like, it's not random. You go spend any given afternoon with him. He got the TVs going with different games. He got the iPad going, and he's watching these games
He must have that good league pass.
You know, yeah,
So he
for
got
sure.
he got the whole family.
For
Fast
sure.
cameras gotta get.
No, I have the league pass. I meant the very, very strict, like, I'm at home when I
Yeah.
should be at the game, and I'm like, I've never,
You don't have the
You're like,
key.
I
I don't
Yeah.
have the Yes app because I'm usually at
You're
the
playing.
game.
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
in
fair,
the game.
It is fair. It's a valid. It's a
No, I can
It's
access
funny. I
any
have
game,
cable, so it's like not
any
my
game, anytime I
I
want.
was thinking, I was like, when does this play out for me? I'm like, oh, I have cable.
I was trying to be in the shoes of the average fan.
Yes,
That's what I was trying
yes,
to do.
he's the man of
Just
the
to-
man of the people.
Yes.
Back to Chris.
But yes, he takes such a detailed approach, and like it's really cool to see, and you see that it's paid such dividends. Like, he's in his younger years, yeah, he was physically gifted in terms of speed, and like, you know, he's instinctual.
Mhm.
But you know, I played with a 37-year-old CP. Like, he's not the fastest guy on the court. He's not the absolute strongest guy on the court. You know, and he's still able to be ultra effective because he just learns how to break the game down. So it's just it's a great perspective to see how success in the league can be accomplished and what it takes.
I had a question set up from a thing you said a couple years ago that I wanted to ask you about, in both your opinion on him, but then also sort of a comp in the W.
Mhm.
You went on I think it was Theo's show, and you were talking about Bron, and you were talking about just how he would know plays. He would know the plays you guys were running before you did, and how it just would throw everyone
CP
off.
is the same way in terms of diagnosing what the other team is running, for the record.
Is there, you can't say yourself, maybe other people would say yourself, is there like,
What do you mean?
are there people you've seen do that? Because I will say this, as long as we've been doing this show, we've had like DeMar said, we've had like 5 different people say that about LeBron, where it's like one of the most demoralizing things is when he knows your
He
play
knows the
better than
play.
you.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, shit, like this guy's already this physically gifted. If he also knows what we're doing, like, let's just go home.
I've seen it with Diana for sure. Just like more in the way of just like sniffing it out. Not necessarily the like, oh, this one that means this person.
Yeah.
Not that specifically, but just sniffing stuff out. She always found a way to sniff stuff out. I think starting to see it with a Chelsea Gray. You know, the beauty of where I sit for those New York Liberty games is I'm literally right next to the visitors bench.
Just stone faced. She makes no reaction. No matter what happens, she's just sitting there like someone will win the
Not
championship.
my
what that
teams,
means,
not
though?
my teams.
You know what that means, though, is that she's like not watching, she's processing the game, probably.
Thank you. Thank you.
She's
I'm also
processing.
just not cheering for anybody.
That's one way to put it.
She's processing.
She's Switzerland.
So
She's
I'm-
taking notes.
Yeah, taking notes. No, I'm actually far enough away from the bench where I'm not like in there. I can't hear the huddles or something like that. But when there's a moment of like, yo, and you know, insert whatever is being instructed, I see that, I hear that, I'm right there. And Chelsea Gray does that quite a bit when she's
Yeah.
on the bench. So I don't know as much like on the floor anymore, obviously, but on the bench, she's like telling her teammate, yeah, watch out for that pick and roll, or even on the offensive end, even more so on the offensive end. And yeah, that's because I can't.
Okay,
that's
to
'cause I
that
can't pick
point,
myself.
Are you, as a spectator, are you able to take your player hat off, the hat that you worn for so many years, to be the player you were, and just watch and just be like, oh, I'm just watching basketball?
Not
Or are you
really.
like,
I space out if I do that, and then I end up not paying
okay,
attention.
so you're watching and
I'm like
paying attention to the
Jumbotron.
details, right? So your
Always, yeah.
personnel, plays they're running, what they're looking for, how they're disrupting the other team's actions.
Always.
Yeah, so you're going to be in tune with all of that
Yeah.
to this day.
By
And-
the end of my career, I felt like I was playing against the opposing coach more than anybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't about who was guarding me.
That's a bar right there.
Yeah,
It wasn't
that is
about
a
anything
bar.
else. I was like,
Bookmark
what
that.
are you trying to do to us? And or what are you trying to do like against us?
Yeah.
And I'm going to beat that. And that's kind of
That's-
how I watched film. That's how I went into it, like trying to pick out what is this coach? What do they think they're good at? Or what do
Yeah.
they think we're not good at?
Yeah.
And then I would try to either eliminate or exploit.
Are there guys besides Bron and CP you've seen do this?
I think it would be the usual. I think it's like veterans that have been around enough, you'll see it. Like we played the Magic not too long ago, earlier in the month, and KCP's guarding me, and I know the difference in the way he's guarding, and he's understanding, like, when we get into an action or where I am on the court, he pretty much knows what I want to do, and then he adjusts what he's doing to just be a pest in that way to not let me do it.
Mhm.
Whereas opposed to sometimes you get like a younger defender that'll guard you and use a lot of effort, but I can disguise, the action or what I'm doing or where I'm going maybe a little bit better. Whereas he's on top of it. Book, when we played in Phoenix, like I'm running plays that we had run for him before, and I know he knows, and he's calling them out, and it's just like he knows the actions that we're trying to get to, and so he's trying to, you know what I mean, blow them up in an aspect or make it difficult. And so you can see the difference in like those defenders that really, really, really understand actions and spacing and what wreaks the most havoc.
Yeah, I think the other layer to that I've definitely seen is when those players, because I think you made a great point earlier about the capability of holding all of that while being able to play the game. Not everybody can do that.
Mm-hmm.
That can really bog people down. But I think there's this other layer where they know the action. Maybe they saw the play call, maybe they didn't, but they can tell what's coming. And then they know you. They know the players' like habits. They know what they're trying to get to. So they simultaneously try to take that away. And that to me is like where you can be an elite defender with your mind, having nothing to do with like physical ability.
Yeah.
So the scariest thing is when they can do that and physically.
Yeah, that's when they're elite. That's when you're elite.
Yeah.
That's what makes it like you can't be elite with just physical tools, and you can't be elite with just your mind. That's how you earn the distinction. It
feels like it's one of the. I mean, this is not a novel statement at this point, but one of the things that is unfortunate for teams that play the Celtics is everything else aside, they have two of those guys. They have two guys in their backcourt that do that. And so you just
which is like not talked about. You love like they have really, really high level players on the wing, but they also have a roster full of them, honestly. Yeah. But they have very, very capable and smart players across, and it makes it just that much more annoying. And you can tell and it leads to success for sure.
It's really, I think objectively speaking, it's not cool. The NBA just fucked up letting them get those two guys. They letting them by the NBA, I don't mean the actual NBA, but I mean the rest of the league, rest of the teams in the league being like letting them get Drew after Derek White is just not.
It's like he comes from Milwaukee, and Milwaukee was one heck of a series that prior year.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would you just?
Yeah, it'll go down.
And it's not like they gave him to him directly, but you opened up a pathway.
But you knew. We did a thing with Tatum over the summer with 2K. And he's like the second that thing happened, he's like,
get on the phone. Get on the phone.
They all have the same agent. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's the second it was a possibility. It was like, yeah, you know where he's going, and it's like it worked out.
Yeah.
We got to go in a minute. I have two more things I wanted to bring up, and I know you might have some things as well. But first thing is All-Star. Did you see the thing today?
No.
What they announced what the new game is?
Is it the multi game thing?
Yeah, the Final Four.
How's that going to work out?
Do you want me to read it to you?
Please.
Mini tournament, 4 teams, 3 games, 24 All-Star selections divided evenly into 3 8-player teams. 4th team is Rising Stars champion, honorary GMs, whatever.
So the Rising Stars champion gets a shot at it.
Yeah, the winner gets a spot.
Barkley, O'Neal, and Smith draft their rosters from pool of 24. 2 teams meet in one semifinal. Remaining 2 teams meet in other semifinal. How long are the games? It says winning teams from game 1 and 2 advance to face each other in 3. Winner of each game is first team to surpass 40 points.
All the games are to 40.
It's just to 40.
I like that.
So it's just to 40, and these are like back-to-back games. Like it's like a 3 p.m. game, a 5 p.m. game, a 7 p.m. game.
That I don't know. I'm not sure.
That's a long day.
Yeah.
Is there like time on the clock?
Is it no, it's just first to 40. I mean, they did this last year.
If it's multi-day, then it changes All-Star weekend.
Yeah,
right. So, but if it's one day, that's a long day.
I like it. I will say we did the pod with Obama and Tyrese, and Obama was shitting all over it. And so, like, I'm not saying that's what caused it, but I would say that, like, it reached a breaking point where I think that networks were going to not be happy with the product that was being put out. And so, I mean, I don't have to play in it. So I think that, like, I just think that it's like, as a consumer, it can't get much worse. So if this doesn't work out, maybe try something else. I still think I like maintain that if you do the home court advantage for the finals thing, that
That'll
actually
never happen.
But why though?
Because it's too important in basketball.
This is all the more like you're
and
telling
you're
me.
depending on guys in this game, in this All-Star game. Some of their teams won't even make the playoffs.
Like
Right.
I'll get that.
They're in a
well,
position
yes,
where like
well,
they're
that-
not even
you
gonna
don't
make the playoffs.
incentivize.
but while that is
everybody
true-
the
So
same.
So now you're the number one seed in the East, and you're looking down the All-Star bench, and there's a guy on there who's in a rebuild, and you're like, "Hey, play hard today.
For
This
me.
might impact."
But here's
you."
my,
I
but
didn't
here's
wanna say it.
but here's the question, and you may be this knock on wood. You may be in this situation this year. If you're even if you're not on a playoff team, if you did West versus East,
What if there's injuries? I
Okay.
just have so many.
if you did West versus East, and you're telling me you're playing for home court advantage, and my guess is you will have at a minimum you'll have Shea, you'll have Jalen Williams, you'll have Luka, probably have Kyrie, and then you'll have all the Celtics guys. Those dudes are going to be like, we are playing. And so if you're on that team, say you're, an Eastern Conference All-Star and you're not, and you're just like fucking around, you're going to look like an idiot because these other guys are
Okay.
playing.
But your spectrum is balling the fuck out and fucking around, and there's a lot in between there where you can play the game, but you're not super competitive.
But at
it's a
least the
subtle-
level will then generally go up across the board. That's what you're saying.
Is what I'm saying is like
Maybe.
out of
I'm not
pure,
risking it.
Well,
as
you
a-
don't.
as a
But you
pure
also
com-
don't
as a
want to.
pure
You also
competitor.
don't want to stick out like, oh, everybody else is playing.
But that's my point. There's a spectrum
There
here where
is.
you can play hard, but you're not like going crazy.
But then at least the product is better.
yeah, so I agree that the product would be better. I think giving home court advantage in the finals is way too much to put
I don't think it's. I don't think a monetary incentive would
doesn't
work
that.
because
I thought what Obama said was probably the closest you're going to get to incentive in a sense.
yeah,
Which is, this is your product, y'all.
yeah. I
This
mean,
is your product.
I can't.
This
I
is your
can't. I
future
haven't
money.
been there, but I think maybe the one, if I'm advocating on the player side for why it's gone to what it's gone to, is like it's an 82 game season, and this is the one time where like, I've heard the argument where it's like, oh, players play harder in pickup. Okay, well, you play that one day of pickup, and you don't have another 30 games staring down the barrel
Yeah.
before playoffs. So
I think there's a way to play hard and be entertaining without being too much.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's been there before.
Yeah, it has.
It was. I mean, the W this year was amazing.
Yeah,
that's good.
I
It
mean,
was
that's
ama-
so.
Yeah.
I mean, so now you're bringing in that was versus the Olympic team. So do you do that? Because the one thing that can replace money, can replace home court advantage, is pride.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And that the girls who weren't on the Olympic team for whatever reason
Mhm.
were like,
It's
all right,
not in their head.
all right, bet, all right, bet.
No, we knew. We
Bet.
talked about
I mean,
that
listen,
before.
I was in that game a couple of years prior and we lost, so it's a setup. But yeah,
My
pride.
last thing, and if you guys have anything else, we can. Each of you're Adam, Silver, and Kathy
Yeah,
for the day.
yeah.
What
You
a
can change
change.
anything. There's one thing, like executive decision. No one's stopping it.
Can I just
Oh, God.
preface this with like I've heard a lot of proposed changes, and I do not like them.
Okay. Do you want to
I-
just throw them out there so we can hear what you've heard?
Okay, adding a 4-point line, terrible idea.
Mhm.
Moving the 3-point line back so there's no corner threes. I think it's a terrible idea. Lowering the women's goal, terribly impractical.
Terrible idea.
Given the fact that basketball gyms are pretty standard, so what are you gonna do? Like add an?
I don't even take that one seriously anymore.
Okay,
I don't even
that's what I'm
I don't
saying.
even-
It's just there's a lot, and I think they're all kind of crazy.
I do have one, but it's like very specific to the WNBA. Well, first of all, in like my pipe dream world, I would love to move the season into like the basketball season, like winter.
Yes,
So
I don't
that's-
think this is a
that's-
pipe dream. I don't want to interrupt, but
It's
we'll get
very
to it.
difficult. There's
Yes.
things we've talked about this.
Yes,
It's very difficult.
but their season's crazy. The
but that's-
timing of their,
Can I get a reason for it?
Yeah, because you would then be competing for arena time.
No.
You
Can
don't-
I get a reason for why it is where it is now?
Why did for arena? Literally, some of it is just being able to
Oh,
play.
because you
like
guys in
like
Liberty,
hockey
you guys in
too,
Liberty,
and-
if you
Yeah,
do Barclays
all
and
the
they do
winters.
shows and stuff
Just
like
like the
that,
time, yeah.
planning all that.
But basketball is like a winter sport. The summer can create. Who knows? Maybe we'll end up just like owning the
Is
summer.
this
and that's
like
our thing.
how high of a priority is this dream for you? You
No,
think
no,
it's like
I think it's like again, I said pipe dream. It's kind of like if it would happen one day, I don't foresee it. I think it would be
But-
great because I think it would help.
Do you think there's any benefit to the season being where it is now?
what I just said? We
Yeah.
get better arena time. We are the only basketball,
the basketball
product
product of the-
happening. So there's pros and cons. But here's like my real like I could like this could actually happen tomorrow.
Sure.
I would change it from we play a 40-minute game. We get 6 personal fouls. I would drop that thing to 5. Why do we
Explain.
have 6?
I guess so you can throw a couple more
I
cheap
love,
shots.
this is like a
Exactly.
totally practical thing.
And the argument I always hear is, oh, we don't want our best players fouling out. And I've, by the way, I've had this conversation numerous, and I'm always like, what about them getting fouled? I'm bad at math. There's 12 people on a roster. That means those 12 people have 6 fouls. What's 12 times 6?
It's a lot.
Ivy League. That means your best player can
Clean
get fouled that
72.
many times. And by the way, we all play overseas. It's a 40-minute game with 5 fouls. None of us are fouling out left and right. And it's more aggressive over there. And more.
I think this is a great suggestion.
I've been wanting this.
This could
forever.
happen tomorrow.
Yes, this could happen
Yes.
tomorrow.
This
You
is
actually
a-
see if Sue
It's like,
decided
make the game.
if Sue decided she wanted to make this her thing, you could probably.
What did
get
you
it done.
notice in the finals? How physical it was. People are not going to be physical if they're sitting on the bench with 3 fouls in the first quarter. They're just not.
So you want the physicality to go down a notch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's a
for
sweet
scoring.
spot. You can argue you can argue that you can go too far and
Yeah.
it's not physical enough. So I don't want that. But right now that I would argue traditionally, historically, the WNBA has
Okay.
been too physical. And I think reducing a personal foul would help with that.
From a player protection standpoint, okay.
Mm-hmm.
From a product standpoint, how do you think that impacts your product?
More scoring,
Uh-huh.
free flowing. Again, I don't think it'll be an issue. I don't even think you'll notice it. Like people won't even notice it. The players, the coaches, the fans. But there's going to be that moment where a player's going to have to think twice before they pick up. I'll be more realistic, before they pick up their second in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Because the second in the first quarter is a lot different when you only have 5.
And I guess that is the MO of a lot of decisions that have come into play for college basketball and NBA on the men's side is free flowing, more points, more excitement.
You want to showcase offense while having competitive defense. And I think trying to find that balance, that this would allow for that.
I think that's a good segue
think
into
it's-
another topic. Last question.
Yeah.
I see one here. And this is a big thing for me in terms of how I play, but is about the NBA 3-point shooting boom and
Oh.
how fans
I
and
want your
media
take.
perceive
Yeah.
that. And, you hear a lot about how the NBA used to be played and how it's not as, and this ties into the ratings and everything, and how the product is not as good because too many threes are being shot. As fans, how do you guys feel about that?
I think it has some validity to it.
Yeah.
I do. But literally, you could put me on both sides of the table on this and I could argue both. Because I think the reality is when you're in the locker room, whether you're a coach, whether you're a GM putting a team together, a coach, a player, you're trying to win. And right now,
Exactly.
it is being set up analytically. The proof's in the pudding that if you play this way, it equates to wins. So you can't just remove that. But as a viewer, I think there is something to the game being a little bit too predictable. And the way I would frame it is, and it's actually a real question. When you go and play pickup for fun, are you just shooting threes?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
That's all you're going to do in a pickup game.
I
might be asking the wrong
You're
person.
asking the wrong person.
I know.
Cam's,
I might be asking the wrong person.
Cam's getting them up.
If I'm being real, to
Yeah.
answer your question, a lot of pickup format is 2 points for a 3, 1 point for a 2, shooting threes every time.
How much of this is just, and this is what I was saying before about Boston, the frustration that everybody has, whatever teams is you got to play that, you got to beat the champs this way. And so you have to, it's a numbers game. They've established
No
this thing.
frustration.
And so it becomes a thing where they're just they just have the team to do that. And so it when that team doesn't exist in whatever many years, is this going to go away?
No.
Because this is just built around how they
No,
particularly play.
you're not trying to mimic Boston. You're not. You're trying to win the game. And
I think he's saying you can only beat them by doing it a similar way because their points per possession.
but I
are
think
just
you
through
can
the
only
roof.
beat anybody by doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's okay. So you watch basketball over time, the game has changed a lot. And every time it's changed, I would argue that it has the teams in the 80s would beat the 70s, the 90s would beat the 80s. The game changes in that way because you learn
Mhm.
and you figure out what works.
Mhm.
For the sake at putting myself at risk, I'll go back and watch games from the earlier 2000s,
not
from
as
the
exciting.
90s. And people, I hear on podcasts, I see a lot of clips where people are like, former players are like, okay, this was more exciting. Random people will be like, it was more exciting back then. It was more exciting. We want to see dunks. We want to see this. The reason we have dunks is because the floor is spaced right now and you can go and dunk. Like when the paint is really, really crowded, you're not getting that athletic play that you so like desperately want.
Okay. So I agree that people have their memories are playing tricks.
I think the memories are playing tricks.
I was actually speaking in the pickup. What I was trying to get at with the pickup part was, as a player, isn't it more fun when you can just like do whatever you want out there and you don't have to think twice about an open shot? Like that to me, when I play pickup, I'm not playing analytical basketball. But I'm thinking about it in the game.
I'm the wrong person to talk. I'm the wrong person to ask because I like shooting threes in general.
Because like, isn't it fun just to like go out there and mess around? And I just would argue that maybe, like I said, I'm on both sides. I could argue that maybe in actual NBA games, if players had that freedom, you might see, I'm just about to be cheesy as fuck, you might see more joy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but there is a handcuffing because of analytics. So you're right. There is a second guessing.
Oh yeah, you're thinking.
So like you might go shoot a midi and you might second guess it because you're like, dang, it's going to land me in some trouble.
Yeah.
And then you're more likely to then miss it. So yes, that plays a part in it. But I truly do think at the core of it, it's an effective way to win games. And like I said before, the media hype train is a completely different bubble than what actually goes on in teams. And winning equals success, and we all want that success.
So it's almost like
so
just a narrative.
Shooting threes is the way to do it, and you have a team capable, a la Boston, then you're gonna shoot them. They shoot them. They shoot them at a high clip. It makes you have to really, really guard it.
Who did Denver play last night?
Sack.
Okay. The last 2 minutes of that game, there was like 2 threes, and the rest was just like, we got to score. It's 30 seconds, we're down 2, we got to find a way to score.
Yeah.
And I would argue those 2 minutes, there was something different than what you might see
That's a good
during
point.
the regular.
But that's the last 2 minutes of all the time.
Right.
But is that a?
Because then you're just taking what's available. Like Jamal's
There's a lot. There's a lot at
floaters.
play there, though.
I agree,
you know,
I
like
agree.
the way the game's officiated changes. The looks you're willing to give up as a defense change.
Totally agree.
You know, there might be a little bit more. In general, there could be more. Kind of focus on running teams off the line, forcing those middies, forcing this, forcing that. And then that's when, you know, star players elevate and you know, kind of use their paintbrush and give you what we all love to watch as fans. But I
have another thought, but we can save it for part 2.
I feel like it's been there. I feel like
what about the Olympics?
It's a different game.
I know. It's not as many threes.
But it's the way FIBA is played.
I know. But I'm saying it's not. Well,
it's the way,
just because of what?
It's the way the international
I could
game
argue
is just
defense
different.
of 3 seconds. I know. But I'm saying it's not as many threes. These teams don't play that way. And I think a lot of people enjoyed the Olympics this summer. I'm taking the role of people when I hate when they do this to me. It's not a devil's advocate.
I think on part 2 we are going to set. We're going to.
No, we're going to switch.
I have an answer for that.
We're going to switch sides.
What's the answer?
I don't want to be this person.
So, in my experience in playing against other countries that they don't necessarily have maybe the athletes that we do, or you know the amount of players to choose from that we do to craft a roster. But what they do have is a ton of selflessness to the game of basketball, a very, very developed system, and a high level of commitment to that system. So, and it's defense and offense, the way they guard, it's high level basketball. Like I remember playing against Spain out in Malaga, like they are running the heck out of their sets, and guys are cutting hard and running fast. They're cutting hard and running fast, and it's not going to directly result in their points. So yes, okay, maybe there are some flaws in the way we teach the game in the States, right? But
depends how you look at it. You want me to just like prove myself wrong? To your point, for real, those teams wouldn't be able to play that way for 82 games.
Exactly. That was what I was getting to.
Oh, sorry.
And that was the point I was getting to.
No, that's a great. That was the
nature of an NBA season.
A good kumbaya.
The nature of an NBA season forces you to play in different ways than you would in an Olympic setting.
Totally agree with that. All right.
Boom. Till part 2.
Settled it.